People which he is using, they are not the people who can be trusted for keeping it to themselves. वो बोल देते हैं अब लंदन में बैठ के कुछ भी बोलता रहे, अच्छा नहीं लगता ना. It gets back. London is like, London is not London. It is a phone call away. तो थोड़ा he must be political system में दिल्ली में चेंज हो गया. मुकेश में भी people may be projecting or whatever, he close to Sonia, he close to Rahul, he close to this. But maybe he has got access, but he can't influence anything. But collective ज़्यादा हो गया ना. Kamalnath can decide one thing, but he can be overruled by Pranab Mukherjee. तो ये सारे लूज एंड को टाइट करना पड़ता है ना.
अनिल अंबानी अपना लगा होगा अपने लोगों के थ्रू, डीएमके के थ्रू अपने चीफ जस्टिस के पास ये सब.
नहीं, डीएमके तो वो तो चीफ जस्टिस केरला का है ना.
हाँ, केरला का. हाँ, केरला.
नहीं, ये भी लगे हुए हैं ना किसी के थ्रू. मुकेश भी तो लगा होगा ना. सर वही कह रहा हूँ कि मुकेश जिस तरीके से अप्रोच कर रहा है, if that what I heard is correct, is not the right way to go.
ठीक, I understand what you're saying.
हाँ, now you understand ना.
हाँ, मैं बात करूंगी थोड़ी देर में. I'll tell him to speak to you.
So did journalists act as middlemen in Radia Gate? That's the face-off question for tonight. Joining us live from Bangkok is Vir Sanghvi, editorial director of HT Media. He'll be breaking his silence on the direct allegations against him for the first time. With us also, Prabhu Chavala, editor, Languages India Today. You just heard excerpts of his conversations with Nira Radia. With us is MG Akbar, editorial director of India Today. N. Ram, editor-in-chief, The Hindu. With us from Chennai. Hartosh Singh Bal is the political editor of The Open magazine, the publication that first carried these tapes. With us also for a perspective from the lobbying industry or the lobbying sector, difficult to define at this time, is Dilip Cherian, consulting partner, Perfect Relations. Mr. Vir Sanghvi, my first question to you is direct. You are being accused at this time, sir, of having taken dictation from a corporate lobbyist and printing verbatim what was told to you in your column, Counterpoint, which is one of the most respected publications, one of the most respected pieces in this country. What do you have to say, sir, in response to this allegation? Vir, can you hear me? Okay, we're just going to patch, that's a live link from Bangkok. We're just going to patch that in just a moment. But till then, I want to go across for an opening remark from Hartosh Bal, who's the political editor of Open magazine. Very serious questions also being asked, Hartosh, about Open magazine, and if you could set up this debate by explaining to us why your magazine decided to carry these tapes, because the accusation is nobody knows whether these tapes are authentic, whether they've been doctored at some level, and also you did not approach the people concerned and get their responses before this piece was carried, which is what is normally expected in any journalistic endeavor.
Rahul, I think there's ample background on these tapes. There was an exchange of correspondence between the CBI and the IT, which already told us that these tapes existed. Second, I may point out it is your channel that ran some of these tapes first. The third is that once we got the tapes, we went through an extensive process of verification. After that is when we decided to run with these tapes. There is that final question you are asking me, why did we not verify with the people concerned? The risk of the story getting killed at that stage was far too enormous. And I will point out that this is not all that abnormal. You yourself have been running stories about Ravi Inder Singh. Based on telephone records, I do not see Ravi Inder Singh's response anywhere. I don't see an attempt to contact Ravi Inder Singh. I think there are certain extraordinary circumstances in journalism where this is done not once but several times over. There is a precedent for all this.
Sanghvi is now back with us from Bangkok. I want to go across to him. Mr. Sanghvi, the allegation against you tonight is that you have taken dictation from a corporate lobbyist and carried in your piece Counterpoint a verbatim repetition of what was dictated to you on the phone. How do you, sir, respond to this very serious allegation being leveled against you?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me for the show, and I'll be happy to answer that question. But before I answer that question, I think I owe your viewers some kind of explanation of why I am perched precariously on this balcony in Bangkok talking to you on a line that doesn't seem very good, where I can't always hear you. The truth is as follows. I've said many things about these tapes. I've been quoted as saying, and I stand by what I've said, that these tapes appear to be doctored. There seem to have been 5,000 conversations recorded by the government. Of them, about 100 seem to have been released. That's 2%. What's on the other 98%? Were they all journalists? Were there politicians on those tapes? Were there industrialists on those tapes? How come those tapes have not been released? I stand by all of that, but I want to make a different point today. I'm not saying, therefore, that there is no case for me to answer, that none of this has worried me, that I'm going to continue doing life exactly as I did before. I think this has been a great learning experience for me. It's been a reflective experience for me. Ultimately, all of us in journalism are what we are because of our viewers, because of our readers. An uproar like this, an uproar that suggests to our viewers, that suggests to our readers that perhaps what we write is not what we intend to write, it's what somebody else tells us to write, is something that goes to the heart of our credibility. It's something that makes me feel very sad. One of the first things I did when this uproar started was I voluntarily discontinued Counterpoint. Many of the other journalists involved in this have continued doing what they're doing, arguing, perhaps correctly, that the allegations have no substance. I'm not saying the allegations necessarily have substance, but it's not in me to do that. I believe it's time to show some response. I believe I should respond to what people are saying. I believe I can't go on as though nothing has happened, which is why I've withdrawn Counterpoint. I hope one day it'll be cleared. I hope soon it'll be back. Okay. Now, having said what I have said, let me go on to your question. Your question, I've just come in. I haven't heard the tape. No doubt you played the really damaging parts of the gas tape because that's what usually people do. It's a very, very long conversation. I'll give you a background if you'll give me a bit of indulgence to explain what's really happened. Sorry, I have to ask you this. Are you still there?
We are. Please go on. We can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Okay. I was doing a column, and the column had always been intended on how fat cats and oligarchs are cornering India's resources. How India's resources spectrum, which has of course become a big issue now, gas, all of them have been cornered by people. Around this time, there was a court case involving the Ambani brothers. One judgment came in, a high court judgment. I called up Nira Radia, who represented one of the Ambanis. She gave me a long, detailed explanation. Many of the points she made, I thought made no sense. I took those points, and I took two in particular that seemed to me to make a lot of sense, to the other side, to the Anil Ambani side. Ultimately, if you read the article, and one of my problems in this is that nobody's actually read the journalism. They've only heard excerpts from the tapes, selective excerpts from the tapes. If you read the article, you'll find it's not about the Ambanis. Yes, the Ambanis are mentioned. Bits about the Ambanis do certainly feature in the thing. But the article makes a different point, which is that oligarchs should not control all of India's resources. One point that Nira Radia made certainly is represented in the piece, which is that a family MOU should not have precedence over India's interest. That's an unexceptional point. It wasn't something secret she was revealing to me. That was the official position of the Ambanis in the High Court case. My own view, that the gas belonged to the people of India, that all the resources belong to the people of India, is represented in the article. It's a view that the Supreme Court has also accepted. It's not a really unusual view that benefits only Mukesh Ambani. There is another part in the conversation, two parts of the conversation you should remember. One is when she accuses Amar Singh of doing some deal on behalf of Anil Ambani in return for supporting the government. I put that allegation to them. I have rejected that allegation. And if you listen to the article, I say I put this allegation to Anil's side, and I'm happy to accept the denials because I could never substantiate. There's another bit on the tape, which of course nobody ever plays, in which I say that fat cats, oligarchs are controlling India's interests. India's resources don't belong to these people. And Nira Radia interrupts and says, but that is going against Mukesh. And I say, explain that to me. She does. And if you read the article and you come to the end where I say it's one thing for industrialists to own a factory, quite another for him to corner all of our natural resources. And I refer specifically to gas, which as we all know has been Mukesh Ambani's area, not Anil Ambani's area. I give that as a specific example, and I end the article with that. That's not something Nira Radia wanted. It's something Nira Radia objected to. And yet, if you read the article, that's the final conclusion. What I have done, because people have only heard these sort of selective excerpts, I've heard bits of tonality, I've come to conclusions. I've put that article on my website. Anybody watching this program, I say, go and read the damn thing. You will see it's completely fair.
But, Mr. Sanghvi, the fact also is, in the portions where you're discussing the interview with Mukesh Ambani, you ask Nira Radia, what is the sort of interview you'd like to do? This whole thing will need to be pre-scripted. We will need to rehearse what we are going to say. It gives the sense to everyone who's watching this broadcast that did you preset, did you fix? Cricket matches get fixed, but do journalists, and did you fix interviews with Mukesh Ambani? Were you chosen for this interview because the corporate lobbyists believed that you were pliable and could be made to ask whatever questions would make the corporate honcho come out in the best light?
Okay, that's a fair question, and I have to say, in all the things that have happened in the tapes, it's that Mukesh Ambani interview thing that annoys me and worries me the most. First of all, it's theoretical. I had no interview program at the time this conversation took place. When I did have an interview program, no interview with Mukesh Ambani was ever recorded. So therefore, I can, in the case of Counterpoint, point you to Counterpoint and say to you that Counterpoint is completely fair. I can't, in the case of Mukesh Ambani interview, say to you, watch it, it was completely fair, simply because the interview did not take place. So we're not actually talking about a cricket match. We're talking about some kind of intention to perhaps fix an interview which never happened. I've referred before to things being cut. I've referred before to chunks of the tape being cut. There's a whole chunk of the tape before in which Nira Radia talks about how, Mukesh wants to talk. I don't know if that's part of your tape. How Mukesh wants to talk. He's ready to say things. We've given him a whole script. We've told him he should say things, etc., etc. And I say afterwards, in fact, the word I use, I think, is, I'll come and do a run-through. I use the word and I say, if you want to do a scripted interview, we'll do a scripted interview. You can give him the script. I will come, I will give him a run-through. Now, I want to explain that because a run-through is not exactly the same thing as a rehearsal. When I do an interview, and my style, as anybody who's seen my interviews, is not to go in there Gestapo style and hammer away at people. If there are people who don't give interviews and there's an element of nervousness or whatever, I say to them, okay, listen, this is what the interview is going to be like. It's not live. Relax. There are 2 segments of 10 minutes. The first segment is going to focus on these things. The second segment is going to focus on these things. Once the interview actually starts, and here I can't refer to the Mukesh Ambani interview because it never actually took place, but watch all my other interviews. When the interviews actually take place, though I put the guest at ease, though I'm relaxed, though I'm easy, though I speak softly, the information does come through. I wish to God that this interview had happened because you would have seen that.
The other very serious allegation being levelled against you, Mr. Sanghvi, is that you say that you will speak to Sonia Gandhi, Ahmed Patel, Rahul Gandhi's name is also there. You seem to be dropping these names, and in several places there is a reference to we. When you're speaking, it makes it seem as if we is you and the Congress party. Can you explain that to our viewers? How is it that you say, almost as a spokesperson of the Congress party, that this is what we have understood, this is what is going to happen? How do you respond to that allegation, sir?
Sure. Again, will you give me a little bit of time to explain it? I'll explain it to you. If you remember when the government was formed, there appeared to be a crisis. The DMK said it wasn't going to join the government. At that stage, it looked as though if the government did not join the UPA would be short-lived. The whole victory would amount to nothing. I know nobody in the DMK. I've never met Raja, Karunanidhi, Kanimori, Balu, Maran, any of these people. I wondered how I would do it. Nira Radia calls me up, and I think that tape is actually in the recording. And I say to Nira, she tells me, do you know anyone in the Congress? Can you get a message across to people you're meeting? I have now 2 options. Because I know she is a friend of Kanimori's. I know that she has some kind of contacts there. I know she has some influence into what Karunanidhi is thinking. Some sense perhaps of what's happening. One is I string her along. I say, yeah, I'll pass it on. And I therefore find out what's actually happening. The other is I say, no, sorry, I don't know anybody, and I hang up. Now, whether I actually pass these messages on to the Congress, I don't think is an issue any longer. I have said I didn't pass these messages on. The Congress itself has said that whatever was said was a figment of my imagination. There was no sense of messages being passed. I was stringing my source along. Now, you can argue, should I string a source along? Are journalists under an obligation to always tell the truth to their sources? There are two views, and it's an important ethical question. Here's my view. My view is that when sources talk to you, they nearly always have a vested interest. They don't talk to you in the interest of journalism. They talk to you because they want something from you. Nearly always sources will, not nearly always.